80s thrash feel, and that's not a bad thing. And I don't know if that's what Metal Church is trying to go for, but when you listen to the rest of the album, it really does take you back to and I'm not trying to compare them, so don't get your panties in a wad, but, I get a lot of Kill 'Em All-like influence from a lot of this, just a lot of early to mid-80s kind of Bay Area thrash sound that I get from a lot of the material here, with the exception of a couple of tracks. Again, that's just what my ears heard. What I also found kind of interesting is vocally, it's all over the place, and not necessarily in a bad way. But if you listen to, we just mentioned No Tomorrow and Reset. When I hear the vocals on those songs, I think of Bobby Ellsworth from Overkill. I think of Neil Petroza from Creator. Those are it just sounds like the kind of raspy. I'm not saying Dave Mustaine, but that kind of raspy vocals like you heard No Tomorrow just there. But then you go to other tracks on the album, and you get some songs where he sounds like he's kind of mid-range Halford, and I'm not talking the Painkiller soaring vocals Halford. I'm talking more of the you don't know what it's like, you don't have a clue, the mid-range Halford stuff. I get a lot of that kind of sound, or almost Primal Fear like vocals, if that makes any sense. And then there's other songs where he sounds like he's Dee Snider, for God's sake, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, I'll be honest and say that I had to go back and go, is this the same dude singing every song? Because a lot of the vocals were just entirely different. Killing Your Time, by the way, is the song that stands out to me that sounds a lot like Halford. Sky Falls, that sounds a lot like Dee Snider to me. It's a good album. I wouldn't say that it's right up my alley of the stuff I'm really into. And by the way, Biv, we probably should have announced this prior to starting our review, but we actually changed our grading scale. We used to do a scale of 0 to 5, and we're actually changing that to a 10. So from 0 to 10 is what we're now going to start grading albums. Biv, I'm curious what you have Metal Church as with our new grading scale. What are your thoughts on the album?
Well, to your point, Mike Howe does sound quite a bit different in different places on this album, and again, it's not a bad thing. Also, they are totally not apologizing, I think, for coming at us with a 1984 Bay Area thrash sound. I don't think that they, wanted to do a whole lot different than that, and that's, again, not a bad thing. I loved Reset also, and No Tomorrow. I also enjoyed Killing Your Time, Signal Path, and Shadow. Those were the ones that really stood out for me. Now, this is an album to me that's like a tale of two cities. Those are the 5 tracks that I mentioned: Reset, Killing Your Time, No Tomorrow, Signal Path, and Shadow are standout tracks, really good. But then the other 6 tracks on the album to me were complete filler.
Yeah.
There was no in between at all. So, this is an album that, gosh, those 5 tracks really carry it. Kind of have to, because the other 6 certainly don't contribute. This could have been a quality EP, but as a whole, I don't know that it's a quality LP. So, I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10.
You're kidding me.
No.
The exact same score I have. And I teetered on 6 or 6.5, and I just felt that 6 makes it sound really bad, which it's not. It's just not anything. If you're a Metal Church fan, you bought this already. It doesn't matter what the hell we say. But if you're an old school thrash fan, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that you could do better. I'm just being honest with you. You could certainly do better, but it's not a bad album. Wow, 6.5 out of 10. And again, guys, if you're listening to the program, whether it's the first time you've heard the show or you've listened to every episode we've done, we don't discuss these reviews prior to. We try to make this as authentic and as real of a conversation as possible. The kind of conversations you have with your friends when you're talking metal as well. That's how me and Biv do these as well. So no predetermination of how we were going to rate this, that, or the other. So it's truly 6.5 out of 10 for both of us. Holy crap, that's weird.
Yeah, no, I was debating between a 6.5 and a 7. And had any of those other songs, or had they all been something that could have contributed to the album, I would have gone a 7. But, when half of it's great and half of it's junk, it's tough. So,
yeah. You could make the case based on half of it great, half of it junk. It could be a 5, but that's probably pretty crappy because it's not as if it's awful. It's just, right. I agree, a lot of filler stuff.
And a 5 to me is just completely average all the way through. Nothing memorable, nothing that stands out, probably nothing you put on your playlist. This did have some quality tracks. So, for that reason, I gave it a 6.5.
Yeah, Reset, No Tomorrow are my 2 favorite tracks on the album. That, according to Metalheads, is SAR off of Almanac's newest album with the same title, SAR, as well. And, folks, I'm going to tell you, a couple episodes ago, Biv sung the praises of Holy Grail and how it was one of the best albums he's heard in a long time and gave it a perfect score. Does Almanac do that for me? Well, let's go over that. Because just over, like, a year ago, the metal world was kind of enraged about the lineup change going on in Rage because they were going their separate ways. You had P.V. Wagner, who still carries on the Rage torch, but you had Victor Smolsky, who decided he's going to go in a different direction. And a couple of years prior, Smolsky started kind of this neoclassical orchestral elements metal band, which is a very popular trend that we're hearing in metal nowadays. Of course, the name of the group was LMO, or Lingua Mortis Orchestra is what he called it. And we talked about this on the show, Biff, we've seen over the last couple of years kind of orchestras really having a huge part of becoming part of the sound and almost the scene in metal itself. We talked Miraf's most recent album, in which, they kind of move the string arrangement to the front of the mix and the guitars more so in the background, which is unheard of in metal. Same could be said for Dream Theater's The Astonishing. I mean, how many strings and orchestra, moments did we get in The Astonishing? A ton of it. So Victor Smolsky goes in that direction. He starts his new band, Almanac. He has the 2 female singers from LMO that he brings over, Jeanette Marchuka and Dana Harnge. But he brings on Andy B. Frank, who's from the band Brainstorm, and David Reedman from Pink Cream 69 on male vocals. So you have 4 vocalists joining Almanac. That can always be a weird thing. How's that going to work? By the way, we got to get a drummer. We don't have one yet. This happened a year ago. You brought in pretty much an unknown drummer, Michael Collar. You also have Armin Alec on bass. You had the Barcelona Philharmonia Orchestra, and there you go. You have yourself a band. Again, this band became a band together less than 1 year ago. So imagine going then into a studio, having to record this. You have 4 singers, you have an orchestra, you don't really have any, you don't have, you're not in the pocket yet as far as your sound, probably. You may have never played with each other before other than once or twice. So you can imagine it almost kind of creates this mood of a rushed studio album. What are the results going to be of that? And what are the results of their debut album? And I'll kick it over to you, Beb, really quick, and ask your opinions on it. But here's a teaser for you. I think it's incredible.
Well, I wouldn't disagree. Now, this was a CD that I kind of found and kind of sent you a link on and said, hey, check these guys out. I might want to review these. And at that point in time, I'd only listened to, I think, 3 tracks. But I just wanted to get your take on it. And then you listened to it, and you said, man, we have to review this. So I went back and listened to the rest of it a few times. And every time I listened to it, I just appreciated more and more and more. There is not a disappointing song on this album at all. I mean, nothing. To me, it's beautifully written. It's beautifully performed. The musicianship is just incredible. Now, to your point, it does feature a lot of layers because of the different vocalist, some string work and whatnot, but it's not overly produced. It's not like one of those weird Italian opera metal CDs at all. It's still very, very accessible. And I know I use that word a lot, both in my writings, if you've seen my reviews, and also here on the show. But and what I mean by that is it's not one of those that there's so much going on that you can't follow along, sing along, that type of thing. This CD, man, do they have a lot to live up to from this point forward. To your point, Jason, this is album of the year material in both, I don't know if you would consider this power metal, or there are some progressive elements as well. But at least in the power metal category, this definitely is album of the year material for me. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Wow. I'll tell you what, Biff, you're not far off. Let me give you my thoughts on it. A lot of times we'll talk about, like we just did in the last review, we'll talk about some of the killer tracks that you'd mentioned. There's some ones that you want to hear. Instead, let me go in depth on the songs that miss the mark. That list doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Right. I mean, with the exception of Darkness, which is like the 1.5 minute interlude between Self-Blinded Eyes and Hands Are Tied. That, and I guess you could say, and this doesn't miss the mark, but it's just not nearly as good of a track as the rest of them. Reign of Madness, which is the second to last song on the album, kind of has this slow, plodding, almost Dio-like elements to it. It's not bad by any means. It's very good. But the rest of the tracks are absolutely killer. Like I mentioned, we just played in the beginning. SAR, we just played a little bit ago for you. The opening track on the album. And it just hooks you immediately. Absolutely great track. Great song. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you in the last 2 weeks, I've probably listened to this song 25 times. And I'm not exaggerating. It is that damn good. Self-Blinded Eyes has a very Advantasia feel to it. That's the second track on the album. Very headbanger-like song. Really good guitar, and you'll hear that throughout the entire album with Victor Smolsky and what he does. Just writes some incredibly good riffs. Speaking of riffs, Hands Are Tied, which is the fourth track. The fourth track, but the third full song, because like I mentioned, Darkness is kind of a interlude. Dead Up sounds like a John Schaefer Iced Earth riff. Just a very heavy, chugga-chugga, fast, just incredibly good riff. He writes some of the best riffs I've heard in a long time, and nothing that's overly articulate, nothing that's super difficult, but just something that if you're driving in your car or you're listening to in some headphones, you're going, hell yes! And I must have said that, and I'm not kidding. I'm like, dude, hell yeah! Probably 4 or 5 times when listening to this album for the first time, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not kidding. Children of the Future, very heavy, crunchy riffs throughout. There's a couple songs in this album, Biv, that really kind of have kind of a Jornland like solo feel to it. And that's not a bad thing either. Kind of straight up hard rock, heavy metal sound. This my second favorite song besides SAR, which leads off the album, which is my favorite song on the album. Nevermore is an awesome track. Sounds a lot like an old school Ed Guy vibe, at least I get to it. And Flames of Fate close out the album strong. Again, kind of sounds like some Jorn stuff. But by the way, incredible solos throughout the album. Michael Collar, who's the drummer behind the kit, stands out as a really solid drummer of a guy I've never heard before. I'm not going to lie to you folks. I've never heard of Michael Collar in my life. The dude's awesome on this album, and he especially fits the band's sound. So I was critical of a perfect score before because I'm like, holy grail, perfect score, Biv, you sure about that? Well, I will say I'm a man who will admit that maybe I was wrong there because that album has grown on me to be a little bit better than what I gave it, but I have no reservations by saying right now, 4 months from now, 8 months from now, this is a 10 out of 10 album. This is an absolute album you have to pick up right now. If you like metal at all, if you like power metal, great. If you don't, great. Buy it now. Pick it up now. These guys freaking rule, and I couldn't agree more, Biv. This is album of the year material, without a doubt.
Well, and I want to explain, too, since we're going to this scale of 1 to 10. A 9 for me means it's an instant classic. This is one that every metalhead should have in their collection, without a doubt. I think you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who calls themselves a metalhead that could listen to this CD after purchasing it and be